So this morning we're having a multi-phase presentation, and we're just gonna have Rosemary start, and then you'll just see what's going on, and there'll be an opportunity for questions. And when there is, we for sure want you to use a microphone, which I will bring over to you, because we do have a couple of people on the Zoom. And with that, please give a warm welcome to Rosemary.
Thank you, Kathy. That's great. I've never had such a rousing thing. So I'm basically here to do, so I'm the treasurer of the board treasurer that serves the church, because I'm not officially on the board, thanks to our bylaws. But I want to let you know about the different things that have been going on for second quarter and what we've accomplished for that. And so I have first the accomplishments. Our solar rebate of $26,433.99 has been received. Thanks to Beth Tamanen's hard work at getting that all lined up with the IRS and getting us into the thing. It's there was a little bit of a balance that it offsets in restricted funds, and so while this says that it's funds for future repairs and updates for solar array, we're actually under warranty for like 20 years, 25 years. So that's going to go more into the building fund and be there for things that need to be worked with. The capital checking account has paid for 2 new room divider panels in December for $2,964.67. We felt there was a really good need for that because of choir practice in the morning and forums here. And it's actually been used at other times during the week for multiple activities, so it's been a bonus for everything there. The endowment and youth fund and seeds for future has been updated to reflect the end of 2024 market values. And today, after I speak, we're going to have the endowment committee talk about the endowment in some more detail. And we also have a DRE, Director of Religious, they say education, but I think it's exploration, has been established and hired beginning in January, and the details about the compensation are there. So current in progress, pledges have been strong in the first half of our fiscal year. The open plate looks like we may have overestimated the budget for that line. We might want to rethink how we estimate that, and we'll be working on that in Financial Council. New staff positions are being considered, especially like a kitchen coordinator and a facilities manager. Building use income has been a little bit lower than budgeted for the first half of the fiscal year, most likely due to having fewer big dinners, fundraiser type events, and rentals. We think that the kitchen coordinator is our next staffing position we want to look at, because that can be available to oversee events and might help that line item that we need to work on. Overall, we're in a positive and thriving status at the end of the first quarter and the first half of the year. And then I included for those, and anyone can get in contact and access this at any time, but Giger helped us develop a balance sheet in addition to our usual reports, month by month versus it's a balance sheet that shows every month as we go along versus just 1 month at a time, which we've had done in the past. And so I've included a bit of that in the slides. And I don't know if I'm going to go into details because, like I said, we do have a full docket today. So next will be not the program council, but our endowment committee. And if you'd like to come up and present. And they're going to give us some more detail about endowment, what it's for, and how we can more effectively use it.
Thank you. Our endowment money started somewhere in the 1940s, and over the years there were...
Just a reminder, Jim, that the Zoom people cannot see the top of your head now. So you just gotta...
Oh,
Walk, there you go, perfect.
Oh, I'm on camera.
Yeah, we've got,
This is candid camera.
we've got about eight people online here.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, the endowment fund started somewhere down back in the 1940s, and over the years, monies have been contributed to that fund. That's the main endowment fund. Okay, we also have what's called the Kokendorfer or the Youth Fund.
Try that.
Okay, there we go. That fund was established back in about year 2000 from a donation from a congregant by the name of Vi Kokendorfer, who has a really, really interesting background if anyone is interested in finding out more about her. And so we have some oversight of that fund. And there's also some monies called Seeds for Future, which monies were contributed during COVID to help young families who might have some financial problems. Those monies substantially are the same as they were. I don't believe there have been any distributions. Those monies are invested in a U.S. government money market fund, okay, earning about 5%. I've done a lot of research on the UUCEF, UU Common Endowment Fund. It's about $250 million in size, and that's run by the UUA. It's a very robustly managed fund, very active to advance our values. I'm impressed with what they do. They're part of an interfaith group, which has, what I read, has total assets in the trillions of dollars. So that would be a large group that has lots of endowment monies, and they're advocates. So the UUA or the UUCEF will do things. For example, they will, along with others in this membership in a group called CERES, CERES, and I would ask you to look at that website. It's very impressive. But they'll do things like draft proposals to bring to stockholder meetings. So they're putting pressure on companies to advance their social and environmental work, if you will, or try to get them to do that if they're not. Now, it remains to be seen what happens now that we have a new administration in Washington. The UUCEF has a quarterly investor meeting, and we attend that via Zoom, if you will, where they explain what happened in the last quarter. As of the last meeting, this fund had an annualized return of 19.4%. That's pretty impressive. It's very difficult to find a peer to compare against returns. And I'll give you one reason why. Some of the monies in the UUCF are used for BIPOC communities, okay? They might invest in a local a community-run organization that makes loans to people in the BIPOC community. So my point is that the funds are very actively managed to be sure that they comply with our values. We can get quarterly earnings distributions. We did get our first one in October, about a little over $1,200. And Therese is going to talk about the application form for using monies from the endowment fund and the youth fund. And where's Kathy Peterson?
She's running a little late.
She's running late. She's going to talk about seeds. Now, does anybody have any questions about the endowment funds?
Can I have some of that interest?
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything?
I'd like to get in on interest like that.
Yeah.
Well, just have 4 more
I think
minutes here.
it's all right.
So-
Tom Betts wants to get in on the interest, for those of you at home.
Anyway, the main endowment fund has a balance of over 153,000. The youth fund about 34,000. So, okay.
Thank you. And this is Jim. He just had a knee done, so thank you. Wow. Recovering. I just want to say we did develop this form last summer. Oh, can you see the top of my head now?
There you go.
All right, excellent. So this form, I brought 10 of them this morning. If you want to grab one, or you can pass those out. Thanks, Barb. And this lists all the pots of money that are available. And there are some other, there she is. Anyway, where you can request funds. And if you'll see Kokendorfer, there's certain things you request out of that, UUCD and seeds. I just want to say the seeds money, we want to spend down to 0. That was given to us. We want to spend that down. Kokendorfer fund, we have a limit. I don't think we can spend down below 20,000, but I think we have 29,000 in that now. 34, there you go. And then that endowment, Jim said is available to us. And if the whole church folds, one nice thing about the UUCEF, if this church folds at all, oh golly.
Think of these people. I'm
Okay,
usually at
put me up
home,
here.
so I'm very
Put me
aware
up
of this.
here, put me up, where can I see that? Okay, anyway, I apologize to you guys out in my cyber audience. And I just have 2 more minutes here about, we have this pamphlet also in the office. The endowment requests are in the office. These are also in the office. Those of you who may be thinking about your wills or talking to your families, let them know if you want to leave a legacy to UUCD. And boy, that's how the seeds fund was fleshed out. Robbie App donated to that very heavily, and that was wonderful. All right, and any other comments from my team? And everybody's here. Kathy, did you want to say anything more about seeds? Are you good? You're good, okay. And that's it. It's the 5 of us. Myself, Gail Kearns, Bill Szanski, Jim Seitz, and Kathy Peterson over there. So thanks for your time. Okay, we get 1 more minute.
Maybe 30 seconds.
Okay.
Kathy, you tell me if my head is in here. Hearing, I'm good. The seeds money, the endowment committee has discussed uses of that, and Therese has developed this application form. And the endowment committee, in their discussion, said, we're going to make our best faith effort to try to get those monies used appropriately. And at the end of 3 years, starting last June when the bylaws were changed, if the monies haven't been used, the recommendation will be to transfer the balance to the youth fund. Now, I have talked with Kate Allworth about all these funds and availability. So she's pretty up to speed on monies that can be used. Thank you.
Yay.
Who's next?
I believe the program committee is next. Program council? Program council.
Thank you.
My name is Russ Mattson, and I'm on the Board of Trustees. And can you see the slides there on that? Okay. So what I'm going to do today is kind of explain what the Program Council is, where we are, where we're going, and how we're going to get there, and a few details about why we need to get there. And I'll talk about some of the detailed issues there. But this slide is kind of how our program council is today. It's kind of there's a lot of detail in it, and I'll explain why, a lot of detail and complexity, and I'm going to try to explain why that's an issue when we get further on. But we're going to
Just hit the arrow.
which would I hit?
Arrow.
Oh, the arrow.
There you go.
Okay.
Right, left. You're good.
Okay. So I'm
And that's you.
bringing it down to trying to bring it down to earth here. Is how we want to look at the program council. We want to, okay, this is first there's the complexity slide, and this is what we want to be. We want to bring everything down to earth. And when we started working on this, several months ago, it's almost 5 months ago, we started working on this, and I put together a list of the committees that I knew about, you know, and the connections between the committees. And well, they don't even fit on this slide when you look at how complex our organization is. So if you, the number of committees and the number of relationships and the amount of work that they do, which is all necessary, it's quite complex. And complexity in itself and energy are two sides of the same coin. To follow the second law of thermodynamics, which breaking it is not allowed, complexity requires energy. So we want to reduce the amount of energy necessary in all the work that we do to make everything simpler and a little more efficient. So that's where we're trying to go. And how we're going to get there, well, it could be, you know, a few lumps along the way. To get there, I put together, or we put together, I should say, 7 groups that are closely related in their goals and mission in the UU, the various committees. And there's different types of committees I found out. There's committees that are chartered, there's committees that aren't chartered, there's ad hoc committees, there's like task force. And I'm not saying that the value of what they do is up or down or good or bad, but there's quite a few committees they're combined into 7 central organizations that have similar
Russ,
goals.
if you could move the microphone a little closer to your mouth.
Okay, they're
Now
located. Oh, okay.
In your mouth.
If Russ could eat.
No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Okay. So anyway, so that's where we're trying to go, is to reduce. Right now, there's quite a few committees, and we'll get to that, but we're trying to reduce it to 7 groups, and with related goals and related associate goals. And I just wanted to point out that there's a lot of work being done by volunteers. There's 19 charter committees, 24 ad hoc proposed or working groups, and there may be more. These are just the ones I could locate or find a name for. There's more than 100 volunteers on these various committees. Some people volunteer in more than one committee. And I estimated that there's between 5,000 and 10,000 volunteer hours a year. And you know, at minimum wage, what's the federal minimum wage? You know, that's at least 100,000, at least 100,000. There's a lot of work done by volunteers that the ship wouldn't stay afloat without these workers. And they, like I say, they perform vital functions. And this is just a short list of those committees. And so what we're trying to improve is communications from these committees to the board, and just simplify everything, because complexity and energy are one and the same. That's the second, like I mentioned earlier. And so we do want monthly reports or semi-quarterly reports or something, and we want to push forward. There was an idea placed, I'm not sure how dated it is, about having an idea platform, and that really has never been utilized, so we want to improve that a little bit. And some of more of the objectives is to simplify the liaison work for the Board of Trustees. Since the Board of Trustees has been reduced in size to 7, that means each board member, instead of having 4 or 5 committees to liaison with or report about, that's increased by a minimum of 1, possibly 2 or 3, depending on how active the board member wanted to be. Another thing we wanted to improve is recognition of the volunteers, because that's not formally done now. And then, so that's what I mean by advocacy and recognition. And then the other thing we'd like to do is to recruit more members, and means to do that, and retain those committee members, and then some form of leadership training, and hopefully simplify and improve the communication by having fewer people to report to, or fewer people reporting, more condensed reporting system, and to get to that goal of simplifying and reducing the amount of energy use. And if you want to talk about that more later, I'm willing to do that. And then, but to do this with fewer leadership positions are necessary to improve communication. And then I mentioned earlier, committees with similar objectives, and the annual volunteer recognition. And another thing we don't have that was mentioned is we don't have a volunteer covenant. Like, what is a volunteer? What should be expected of a volunteer? What should the volunteer expect? And then advance the IDEA platform. And I don't know if you can see the whole slide. So this is the goal. This is the dream, let's say, the pie in the sky, or the pie in the cosmos. So there would be 7 committees, like I mentioned, and this is how they would be grouped: to the building facilities, community care, finance, media communications, what's the other one in the corner, membership, and the green sanctuary. So this is the biggest issue I see going forward, getting this done, is having people come forward as far as leadership positions for these groups, and they then would set their goals and their meeting objectives and their reports and so on and so forth, and maybe have consolidated reports instead of having 7 different reports to fill out and moving forward. So that's the goal. And the biggest challenge, like I said, I see is getting volunteers to lead these 7 committees. It could be somebody out of the committees, could be an elected board member or something to that effect. And so that's where we are, and that's where we're trying to go, and this is maybe how we'll get there. So I'm open to questions.
Okay, here we have our first question.
Russ, you mentioned 19 chartered committees. Does that mean there are 19 committees in the bylaws, or 19 committees that were approved by some kind of a vote of the membership?
Question is, how does a committee become chartered? Does anyone in this room have the answer to that? Do you have the answer to that, Russ? Kathy Stinnett has the answer to that question.
Yeah, several years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we had committees that wanted to be seen as official committees in the congregation submit an application for a charter to the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees then approved if it was a committee that they felt like that was going to be a long-term committee doing work that we would consider, to be important to the congregational life for, over a period of years. That's the best I can do right now. We did not, that wasn't followed through with necessarily with the next board that happened. So that's why we have some probably long-term committees that are not chartered at this point. So whether that has value or not, I think that, that the board could consider that, but, or the program council could consider that. And so that's, there are some chartered and some unchartered. Yes, and Sarah has some comment on that.
We're gonna have Sarah come up and stand so the Zoom people can see her as well.
Hi, thank you. I'm Sarah Monahan, Russ's co-president on the board. And what I just wanted to add to that is that the value of a charter for a committee allows a certain level of sustainability and consistency with that committee, so that if the committee membership changes over time, that the purpose of the committee and the intention of the committee can remain stable. And I don't think that we've ever made it a requirement that a committee has a charter to operate. And it can be a supportive document for the committee because volunteerism is not a life sentence. And so we expect the membership on committees to change over time.
And the charter may not, the charter at that time they were chartered may not reflect what is currently, okay. Whatever it was in the charter for a particular committee at the time they were chartered may not reflect at this time how that committee operates either.
It looks like Giger has a question in the back.
We got Giger, and then we got Marty, and I think Sally had a question too.
Maybe it would be helpful to the gathered congregants to know.
We're not putting this on, is it on?
Maybe it would be helpful. Tell us who some of the chartered groups are, or all of them if you know.
I don't have that list.
Yeah, it is on that list, it is on the list I provided that's in the Connect, which committees are chartered. There's 19 of them.
Could you rattle a few of those from memory, the key ones?
I made that thing go away because I thought we were done with that, so, sorry. While they're looking for those, if anybody, Therese was kind enough to bring,
I made that
You're
go
Doing Your
away.
Will or Wildwood Endowment Legacy.
I think Sarah's gonna find it.
Don't feel pressured or anything, but they'll be.
You have to use the microphone. Really, I'm usually at home for this thing, and it makes a big difference to me, so if anybody's talking, please use a microphone, okay. Okay, Claire, see what you think.
If you're doing your will or wanted an endowment, there's some here, and I'm guessing they're also in the office if you need to get more.
Okay, Marty Suzansky.
The carrying committee used to regard itself sort of above the fray and didn't want to be called a committee. And then when it became clear that we could participate in program council, and more importantly, I'm sorry to say, have a budget, that's when we got excited about being a known committee. And we have $100 a year, which we spend mostly on stamps. And so it's important, but it has elevated our view of ourselves.
Do you want to rattle some of them off?
Okay, I think Sally had a question. Where'd Sally go? Yep.
Well, and really quick, just to follow up on Giger's question, some of the chartered committees include Finance Council, Woven Basket, Worship, Adult Enrichment, and Forums. The Forums Committee is a chartered committee. Audio Visual, Arts Council, care team, as you mentioned, food and fellowship, Buddhist group, arts council, outdoor sanctuary, indoor gardens, climate action team, membership, racial justice, affirming and welcoming. There are additional ones, and the list, the complete list is linked in the Connect. Go ahead, Sally.
Yeah, this isn't a question about what they were talking about. I had a concern on my heart that I would like to relate and ask people if they want to participate in something. I'm concerned about the people in our church who identify as gay, lesbian, trans, bi, whatever. That with the new administration making the announcement they're making, that some of these folks could end up in some jeopardy. For example, if they had to get a new passport or renew their passport, if they don't check the box of the sex they were born with, there could be consequences for them. And so I would like to do something called a circle of concern, that we in our church know how to respond if some of these things affect our community. Also, we have some young women here who come from Iran, and I think they're fine, but I don't know.
Sally, that's a really great segue, because the third and final portion of our forum this morning. Thank you so much, Russ. Did everybody get their questions addressed? If you have additional questions, you can email Russ. His email is also in the Connect. So thank you so much, Sally. And I think learning more about the circle of concern process for what you're talking about. Yes. So safety is something that I think has been on everybody's mind since in the last 3 weeks in particular. And the safety of this congregation is not new in the last 3 weeks. And there have been a lot of things that we have done as a board and as a congregation to ensure the safety of the members of our congregation, of our building, of our finances, of our information. And one of the things that we did safety from a pandemic was certainly of paramount concern a few years ago, and we took safety very seriously, implementing our hybrid format for our services to allow people to feel safe in their homes. One of the aims of the current administration is to make people feel unsafe, is to make people feel fearful, and is to make people feel overwhelmed. So all of those things that you're feeling are real, and they are also a tactic. So we have to make sure that whatever else we are doing in terms of safety, in terms of all of the things, protecting our funding, protecting our personal, individual human bodies, protecting our building and our children who are here during the week in the nursery school and all of that. Whatever else we are doing, we must also be tending to the safety that we cultivate within us. I thought I was going to make that as my last point, but here it is, and I'm not done talking. But so one of the things that we have done in terms of safety, we did kind of a safety assessment meeting in April of 2023 when many people joined to talk about safety and more intentional safety efforts that we have in our building. And there was a litany of things that was covered in that meeting, everything from fire safety, safety from weather and storms, medical emergencies, mental health emergencies, building and grounds, clergy misconduct, cybersecurity, RE and youth and vulnerable persons, financial security, all of these things. And wonderfully, we have practices and policies and oversight that addresses a lot of things for safety. Okay, we have lighting at our exits, we have fire alarms and fire extinguishers, we have an AED, we have a lot of things that we have in place to address safety. And the UUA has some fantastic resources, and the heading that they have is Safer Congregations. Because no matter what we do, there is a possibility of threat that we don't have any control over. Whether it is a tornado or a pandemic or a bad actor in our community who enacts violence, the work of creating a safe congregation is never complete. We will never check the box and say, oh, we are all safe, right? And it is possible to be safe and not feel safe. And if you've ever had a kid who didn't want to go to bed because they were afraid of the dark or afraid of the monster under their bed, you know that it is possible to be safe and not feel safe. If I'm having a panic attack, I don't feel safe, and it doesn't matter how comfortable my surroundings are. And it is also possible to have threats and feel safe, right? As a person who is described as a youth as having insufficient risk-averse human, as a teenager, there were lots of situations that I put myself in and found myself in where I was probably not safe, but I felt invincible. So we know that both things can be true. And I think that what we want to do is to continue the work of creating policies and practices and support for one another so that we can continue to move toward increased safety. One of the things that we talked about, and this came up in our last board meeting, and the UUA website with their Safer Congregations has 21 topic areas that you can explore and get resources for. And as Amy has said multiple times, the more you read, the more you could read. And one of the important things that they note is that we can't address all of the things all of the time, all at once. And the work in some areas is going to feel slower than what people want. And I get that. And that's real, right? And feeling like, why don't we have this right now? This is when we need it right now. Yes, I agree with all of you. I agree with everybody who thinks that. And our volunteer board and all of the volunteers and our incredible administrator and office staff are doing the work. And Sally, I so appreciate you bringing that as an option. And I think that that's something that we can learn more about, and we can put a notice in the Connect for people who want to more actively participate in an effort like a Circle of Concern. I think that all of us here, all of us online, all of us in the broader community are called upon to stand with all of the people who we know are threatened, all of the academic funding that is threatened, all of the laws and policies that are being changed that put people at real risk.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, get a microphone.
I think we also need to find out about undocumented people in our community and how to respond if ICE comes in. That was the only other concern I had. Thank you.
Absolutely.
The next two forums are actually related to that, but we'll announce those in a minute.
Thank you, and I'm trying to wrap this up in the next 4 minutes, but I would like to hear people's questions. One of the things, and I just wanted to mention, is that one of the things that we did at the board meeting was to talk about the possibility of updating the camera system that we have in our building, and so steps have been taken to initiate that process to kind of assess the overall security of the building and take a look at the possibility of new cameras for increased security. What questions do you have?
Questions, comments, thoughts related to anything? Seems like all topics are available now. I mean, there's the whole budget, and then there's the restructure of the committees, and now there's safety. So, people have any comments or thoughts on any of these topics? Yes, over here, just 1 minute. Yeah, I used to watch the Phil Donahue show.
Hi, so I'm Wes, I'm a trans man, and I would love if, speaking of that circle of concern, that if we had a specific, maybe agreed upon as an entire congregation, an idea of how we want to support those communities specifically. And I would love to be a part of these circles and education. I would love to help with education for queer topics or for like trans identity, because right now I'm very scared. I checked into Birch Tree. I was gone for a whole week because I was so mentally distressed. And this community has given me so much. I would love to kind of help be a part of that and help introduce others so they can feel safe in this safe space and continue that safety. I think education is how I feel safe in a space and how I know I can cultivate the safety. I know everyone could be well-meaning, but until I know the education's there, I'm unsure about how relaxed I could be in the setting. So I just want to.
Education.
So education would be teaching people in this community, or in the community in general, more about queer identity and how basically we're not any different from anybody else, but also have a space to answer the uncomfortable questions where you don't have a person to ask that question to, and to give safe space for that to be answered. You know, there's that no judgment zone. It's like talks on racism, you have to, you know, sometimes answer the uncomfortable questions of people who are well-meaning but very misinformed. And, you know, having that, I think, in a community here for queer identity would also be very helpful, because then I know the people that show up are wanting to be educated. And those are things that we could offer even into our community, because education beats hate, really.
Absolutely, Wes. Thank you so much for asking that question. And one of the things that I wanted to address in terms of the answer is that one of the things that we have here at UUCD in partnership with Peace Church, and I can't remember what the other church is, and another liberal religious community, is that we offer the OWLS program, which is the Our Whole Lives comprehensive education on sexuality and sexual identity, and currently that program is being offered at the sort of middle school, high school level, and but it is a curriculum that is available for young adults and even for older adults. And certainly we would like to improve the offerings and increase the offerings in that in those age ranges to make that more readily available, because I think you're absolutely spot on that education is one of the ways that we help people to know what we're about and what we value.
We're
So
almost,
thank you.
we're almost, our time's almost
Yes.
up, but Richard has something, and then I'm gonna let you know what the forum.
I just have,
Think the battery maybe.
Do you want to take this one?
I just have a brief comment.
We're gonna switch out, we got a bad battery.
I just have a brief comment from my perspective. This is a wonderful, wonderful meeting. I don't, from my perspective, I don't really fully appreciate the full complexity of our UU organization. And Russell, you'll appreciate, and Jim, that there is an awful lot of things going on that I don't really know about except for meetings like this. And this is a very good meeting, and we should maybe have more.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, I need to, you're done. You really need to say more. Okay, all right, you're not done.
I just wanted to say thank you.
Very funny. Here,
And we do have these updates and opportunities for feedback and questions quarterly. And so I'm sure Kathy knows when the next quarterly board forum is, because she is about to give you information on the next forum.
It'll be in the quarter. So, this is gonna be, now, this came up, this topic. So, our next forum on February 16th is the look at me. The North Star Act and Migrant Justice. Members of the Twin Ports Interfaith Committee for Migrant Justice will update us on the status of the North Star Act pending in the Minnesota legislature. North Star protects immigrants in the state of Minnesota by prohibiting state and local law enforcement from using state resources for the purpose of civil immigration enforcement. We're also going to hear how UUCD can assist their work with asylum seekers, refugees, and immigrants in our region, including help at the Welcome Center. So if you're interested in that, that's the forum next week. On February 23rd, we have refugee resettlement and a firsthand report from the southern border. Reverend Charlotte Franz, retired pastor at Peace Church, and also I think Pilgrim before that, is going to share experiences from her visit to the southern border in January, and Charlotte's been very involved in assisting refugees for many years, including helping to create sponsor circles for Afghan refugees in recent years. So if you're interested in those topics, forum next week. And the next round of applause to the board and the endowment committee and everybody else. And I would now encourage you to actually go to the service. That's the next thing that happens. And also to help us out with, those of you who can, with putting the chairs away. Thank you. Oh, Rosemary's got one more thing. Over here.
For those who've asked when the next quarterly budget forum or treasurer's report, and we're gonna add the endowment committee each quarter too to join us, and then whoever else, and board of course. So the next one is going to be April 27th.
Okay, Richard's gonna mark his calendar for April 27th. Thanks again, and help put away the chairs. Bye-bye. Where'd Betsy go? Tom Betsy.
Pieces of myself all over the place, aren't they?